What's up guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make XAVIERSOBASED type beats on FL Studio. So I made this beat completely out of stock plugins, completely for free, and I also used all free drum sounds, so you guys can make a beat like this for free as well. The only thing it's going to cost you one way or another most likely is going to be FL Studio. Depending on how you get it, it may come with a price. But now moving on, first what I did was I just opened up FL Studio and then I loaded up a bunch of different stock plugins. So I loaded up Citrus right here. I just found this kind of plucky type of sound from it, and I made this MIDI pattern right here. So that's probably how you're going to want to start these beats, is just with a cut, load up a couple different synths, create a couple different melodies, and I'll show you the mixing and everything afterwards. So here's the first melody. Just a pretty simple plucky melody, and what I did was I added a delay on it, and that's another thing you're going to want to do when making these jerk type beats, is add a lot of delays and stuff to fill space if your patterns aren't too complex already. And I added a delay on not only this synth but a lot of the other synths that I used as well. So yeah, I'll show you guys those next. So I used Citrus for this one as well. I just chose a different preset. And these beats can have various different numbers of layers to the melodies. I have 8 different layers in this beat, but it really just depends what you want to do with your beat, how complex you want to make other parts, because if you're not going to be filling space with the melodies, then you're going to be filling space with the drums or with the vocals, so it just really depends on what type of vibe you're going for. But yeah, here's the next sound. That's not the next sound. Here's the next sound. That's just a very simple pattern from this synth. I think it's called Orch one, I'm guessing. I've actually never used, oh no, Sim synth, or I don't know, I'm really confused. I've never actually used a synth before. I just loaded it up randomly for this beat and decided to force myself to use it. So yeah, next layer of the melody we have this synth. I believe this is from, yeah, triple oscillator or 3 times oscillator. And this is actually just the default preset. I didn't mess with it at all, but I got this kind of cool sounding thing. And another big part of these beats, something very important to do when mixing, is definitely going to want to pan things different directions to widen the stereo image. Like I have this one panned kind of far to the left, some other melodies panned various directions, as you can see here. So you're definitely going to want to do that. And in addition, on this synth, just to make it sound a little bit different, since it was just the default preset on the plugin, I added some delay, a Fruity Convolver, and then a Love Filter as well. And Love Filter is a very underrated plugin, honestly. I'll show you some automations I did with it. Or actually, I didn't use any automations for it in this video, but now I definitely recommend using Fruity Love Filter. It's a very underrated plugin. You can get some very cool effects out of it using automation and whatnot. And without further ado, we'll get on to the next synth, which is this one. And this is from this synth, I believe it's called Mini Synth. I've actually never used this one either. And once again, it's just the default preset, but it is what it is, and it sounds good with the beat, so it doesn't matter. And next up, I use this synth. I believe it's called Fruity DX10. I'm not 100% sure, but I got this reed preset and just made this little pattern, which sounds like this. And once again, on this one, just like many others, I have some delay on it. Next up, I have this grand piano, which I got from Flex. I have the same piano preset in both of these two, but I just wanted to separate the chords from this little top melody thing because I wanted to have different effects on them. So I made them separate and assigned them to 2 different mixer channels. So here's what this melody sounds like. Just kind of a fast, plucky, repetitive thing. And then the chords sound like this. A very simple chord pattern, just two different chords, but it does its job, it fills the space it needs to. And now I'll play all of the melodies together. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the synths in this beat. You're just gonna want, like I said, a couple different synths depending on what you want. I recommend around 7. Now we're gonna move on to the drums, and drums and jerk beats can get pretty complicated. Here I have, as you can see, a bunch of different drum sounds, 11 different drums. So starting off, we have this clap. It's the infamous jerk twerk clap, is what they call it. It sounds like this. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up, I added this open hat, and it's just a very simple open hat, just to add some more character to the beat. Next up, I have this accent snare, or it's actually not an accent snare. It's like the typical jerk snare pattern, and I've played with the velocity, adding some filler notes in between. But all of the ones that are at the higher default velocity, this is the pattern. These follow the pattern, the typical jerk snare pattern. So you guys could probably copy that down and then add accents wherever you want. Yep. And then next up, I added some toms, which is something I've actually never done before. But here's what the first tom MIDI looks like, and here's the second. And I'll just play them together because they kind of complement each other. But yeah. And I pan them as well slightly, just a little bit, in order to kind of, here they are right here, mimic how the toms are actually set up on a real drum kit, just like the high tom and the mid tom. So yeah, and then next I added the triangle, and it's just kind of a simple little triangle pattern. Sounds like this. You don't need to add a triangle, but I think it can definitely be a nice element to add to the drums. And then another thing that's very optional when it comes to jerk beats is adding a hi-hat. They're not always included in these type of beats, but I decided to include one. So, yeah. I didn't want the hi-hats to be too repetitive, so I made it a 4-bar loop. And I mean, that still may be considered repetitive. I don't know, but at least it's not just like a 2-bar loop or whatnot. Now, next up for the 808s, I did something very interesting with these 808s that I've never done before, and you don't necessarily have to copy this same method, but it does kind of give this nice XAVIERSOBASED, crunchy 808 type of vibe. And I feel like his 808s are not crunchy necessarily, but they're kind of crunchy and soft at the same time. The best way I thought of to describe it is kind of like a sponge that's disintegrating. So I have this 808, which is just playing the same MIDI pattern as this 808, but this is just pitched down a bit. And what I did was I took out the high end from this higher up 808 because I just didn't like how it sounded, but I liked the high end, how the sound of the high end when the 808 was pitched down to a lower note, but I didn't want to move the entire 808 down in a whole octave because it just didn't sound good right there. So I just took out the high end, I just isolated the high end in this second 808 and have the two 808s playing together to complement one another to create this nice sound, which sounds like this. And yeah, this 808 kind of just gives that comforting type of sound that a lot of Xavier's beats have. So I thought it worked really well with the song. Now moving on to the next element of the drums, I just have this simple little accent snare. And then next up I added these two claps which complement each other, and I have panned different directions. Oops, and they sound like this together. I added a bit of reverb on this one just to shape the sound a bit more. But that's pretty much it for the drums. And in terms of mixing on the drums, I didn't do a whole ton of mixing. The main thing I worked on was the 808s, like I said. But again, you're just going to want to pan things different directions to widen the stereo image with the drums as well. And now I'll go ahead and play the drums together so you guys can see what this sounds like. And I know the 808 kind of sounds a bit weird right now when it's not played in combination with the other melodies, but I promise it sounds good when everything's played together. And now, next up, I'll just show you guys the arrangement, and that'll be it. So now I have a pretty simple arrangement here. I just have a 16-bar intro, a 16-bar chorus, a 32-bar verse, and then a 16-bar chorus, and then an 8-bar outro. And how I made the intro and outro is I went here, I selected this section of the beat, I clicked Command Option C on my keyboard, or it will be Control Alt C if you're on a PC, which renders this out as an audio clip. And then what I did was I did that so I could add this tempo automation, but also have it change the pitch, which is something that is commonly seen in a lot of jerk beats. They'll have a sped up intro or whatnot, and then it will slow down and the pitch will shift down as well once the beat comes in. And then I also added these just little chants with some delay on them to kind of fill the space in the intro and keep it interesting. And then I had this section as well where I took out the drums and rendered that out as well to just have like a little bit of a kind of break section right before the beat comes right in. And then going to the outro here, I did a similar type of thing. I consolidated all of this into an audio file and then added a volume automation and a tempo automation in order to have a full circle kind of moment where we have a pitch and tempo shift in both the intro and the outro. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys learned something. If you thought it was helpful, please comment down below. If you think there's anything I can improve on, please let me know as well. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys back in the next video.